Have you ever been underestimated because of your appearance or age? What if I told you that a legendary black woman, the CEO of a multi-million-dollar hotel chain, was once denied a room in her own hotel not because of her power, but because of the way she looked? Tonight, we're going to dive deep into the story of Elanor Johnson, a woman who built an empire only to face the harsh sting of discrimination from her own staff. But this story doesn't end with her being wronged. It ends with a powerful lesson that no one at her hotel will ever forget. It was a crisp evening in Chicago when Elanor Johnson stepped out of a yellow taxi in front of the Grand American Hotel. A modest woman, dressed simply in a woolen coat and soft leather shoes, she gazed up at the building she had created over 30 years ago. She wasn't wearing the typical flashy designer dress or dripping in diamonds that many expect from the high and mighty in the luxury business world. Instead, Elanor was here as an ordinary guest, ready to check in like anyone else. But she wasn't prepared for what was about to unfold. As Elanor stepped into the grand lobby of her own hotel, she was greeted by a young receptionist, Jessica Carter, who barely looked up from her phone. Jessica's gaze was cold and dismissive as she scanned Eleanor's modest attire. "I'm sorry, ma'am," Jessica said, her tone shifting into disbelief, "but our hotel is fully booked tonight." Elanor, calm and collected, tried to explain. "There must be a mistake. The Grand American always reserves a room for me." But Jessica, having grown up in wealth and privilege, didn't buy it. "I'm sorry, but I don't see your name on the VIP list. Our hotel is completely full tonight." Now, imagine how frustrating it must be for someone who's worked their entire life to prove themselves only to be doubted by someone who doesn't understand the weight of their legacy. Elanor didn't raise her voice or create a scene. Instead, she simply pulled out her phone and made a quick call to someone who would make sure the mistake was corrected. This wasn't just a call for a room reservation. This was the call that would open everyone's eyes to the truth. Elanor wasn't just any guest, she was the founder of this hotel. And this hotel existed because of her sacrifices, provision, and her resilience. As she stood there quietly, Jessica and her colleague, Luke, continued to whisper about the fraud who was trying to sneak into the VIP section. They had no idea who they were truly dealing with. When the shift manager, Michael Harris, arrived at the desk, he wasn't any more convinced than Jessica had been. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Johnson," he said with a cold, professional smile. "You must have confused us with another hotel. You are not on the list." But Elanor didn't react. She simply waited, her eyes not betraying a hint of frustration. She was, however, well aware that this was the same discrimination she had faced her entire life, a constant challenge for a black woman trying to make her mark in a world that wasn't built for people like her. The staff continued to stare, unsure of how to proceed. Elanor, however, remained calm as she awaited her phone call to take effect. Minutes later, two powerful men walked briskly into the lobby. Thomas Reed, the vice president of the corporation, and Anthony Price, the regional executive director for the Midwest, were visibly shocked to see Elanor standing there. "Mrs. Johnson," Thomas asked, stunned, "I had no idea this was you." "I'm so sorry." It took only a moment for Jessica and Michael to realize their mistake. The woman they had judged so harshly was, in fact, the founder of the entire hotel chain. Elanor had built this empire with her own hands and they had nearly thrown her out. The shock was written all over their faces as they realized the gravity of their mistake. Now, let's pause here and think for a moment. What if Elanor had reacted differently? What if she had stormed out of the hotel or publicly humiliated the staff for their ignorance? She didn't. She didn't have to prove her worth because her legacy spoke louder than any words ever could. Instead, she handled the situation with grace and quiet authority. Her lesson wasn't just about correcting a mistake, it was about showing others how to see the humanity in everyone, regardless of how they look or where they come from. The truth here is clear. The way we judge others, often based on superficial appearances, can cloud our perception of their true worth. Eleanor's experience with prejudice was not just a one-time incident. It was something she had endured her entire life, and it was only by overcoming those challenges that she became the strong, successful woman she is today. In the aftermath of the incident, Elanor didn't ask for apologies. She didn't demand any retribution. Instead, she used the experience as an opportunity to teach her staff a valuable lesson. During a meeting with the hotel leadership, Elanor made it clear that the hotel chain needed to change not just their policies, but the very way they treated their guests. She called for a complete overhaul of the training program, emphasizing respect and equality for everyone. Eleanor's message was clear. Dignity is not something that can be measured by outward appearance. It's something that comes from within, and it's how we treat others that truly defines us. The next day, as Elanor walked through the hotel lobby again, she noticed a subtle shift in the atmosphere. The staff was treating everyone with more warmth and respect, and Jessica, who had once looked at Elanor with suspicion, now greeted guests with sincerity. Elanor knew that change wasn't instantaneous, but the small steps taken toward improvement were worth more than any immediate apologies. It was about showing people how to be better, not by condemning them, but by guiding them toward the right path. As Elanor left the Grand American Hotel, she didn't leave with anger or resentment. She left with the satisfaction of knowing that she had done more than just teach her staff a lesson. She had changed their hearts. Her message was clear: treat people with kindness, see beyond the surface, and never judge a book by its cover. Eleanor's legacy wasn't just the empire she built, it was the lives she touched and the lessons she imparted. And her story is one that will resonate long after the hotel's lights dim each night. The most valuable lesson in this story is simple: respect and kindness are the true measures of success, not wealth, status, or appearances. In a world filled with judgments and prejudices, it's our responsibility to see beyond the surface and treat everyone with the dignity they deserve.